Hello and welcome to another episode of Inside the Gamer's Studio. Today I am with Singed, who is playing Graves in this game. Welcome to the studio, Singed.
Hi, glad to be here.
Okay, Singed, tell me a little bit about your League of Legends experience.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
I got brought to this game by a friend of mine who I go to church with. I was just watching him on the client, and I'm like, what is this? And he's like, oh, this is a game called League of Legends. And this was right when Nocturne was released, so he was on his free week, so he let me play one game as Nocturne, and I remember specifically that I thought Nyfear did absolutely nothing because the AI were so stupid, so like it just seemed like they were doing the same thing as they regularly would do.
Okay.
30 seconds until minions
what's the first
spawn.
champion that you really considered yourself to be good at?
Master Yi, because he was just like the dunk master. Like I watched the video because he thought it was hilarious, and I'm like, I don't get this at all, but it's still pretty funny. And afterwards, I bought Jax, and I was considering buying Pax Jax online, but then Jaximus came out, so I just bought that, and I just started mating him until I hit around level 29.
Minions have spawned.
What's your favorite champion right now?
Right now, I really like how Ezreal is just dominating bottom lane because his burst and his snipe is just really good. But Graves has a AS steroid, so late game he's a harder carry. But Ezreal is just so good at early game, so I think I would say Ezreal.
Okay. What's your current ELO?
Right now it's 1375. After they changed dodging rank games to just 30-minute wait time, and then they released ARAM, like the Proving Grounds map, I found it's so much easier to just queue, and then if you get like a really bad team, or like the people are trolling, or the people just don't want to pick a certain champion, even though, and then the other team grabs it, I just figure it's better to dodge and then just play one game on like a custom, and then come back afterwards, because I haven't lost a game in a long time, but I don't play that often because my friends are always asking me to play. So when I do solo queue, then I always just try to get my best role and get a good team comp going.
Okay. What's the biggest challenge of your ELO?
People who don't know how to counterpick and make a comp, because there's nothing worse than having like giving up
First
Nautilus
blood.
to the other team, or like Blitzcrank, and then your team gets like a really mediocre jungle like Master Yi, and then your support's like a really bad support. Like I got in support Orianna before, and like people are gonna argue with me that support Orianna is not bad, but it's just not. It's getting outclassed for other supports.
Okay. So, what is your main position in League of Legends?
I used to play mid lane for a long time for my friends, but one of my good friends in real life started to play with us more often, and he's really good mid lane. He plays sort of like Reginald in Team Solo mid. He just plays so aggressively, and whenever we used to spar, he used to get first blood on me all the time because I just wouldn't understand how much damage he'd be doing at such an early game. But like, I moved on to playing AD carry bottom lane because late game it's a lot easier to carry with AD carry because you just do so much more damage.
Okay. So tell me a little about how you approach AD carry.
I used to go bottom lane as like Jax or some not AD carry, but I still would find that they would have an AD carry, like Ashe and Alistar, and then I would just get stomped, and I'm like, Ashe is overpowered because she can shoot arrows. So then I just started playing Ashe, and then I realized that if you just press A and then just click click in the general location, and you don't get the last hits, you just fall behind really hard. So then I started last hitting. So I found out all about like last hitting, picking good AD carries before I even read anything or any guides. So I just kind of figured it out myself, and then I decided to like stop playing AD carry after a while because my supports would just be terrible, and I can't do good in lane without a good support. You rarely can do that unless the other team is just bad, or you get good jungler ganks. So I started playing mid lane because mid lane is really good because you get to be alone and you get to test your own skill against them, excluding junglers. And I'm just not that good at top laning because it's just hard to understand for me anyway.
Okay. So, What's it like to have to rely on a support?
I always use Skype with my friend. He's supporting me. He's not supporting me that game. That game was just random picking me up game from like some random people on my friend list. But when I have that guy as my support, I'm not gonna disclose the name. He plays really aggressively, and so do I. So if you ever see us, we're always playing something like a Taric, Graves, Ezreal, Leona, or something of the sort. A support that's really good at locking them down and letting them get hits off.
Okay. So what's it like having a support that really doesn't mesh with your gameplay?
It's like they're speaking in a different language, not literally, but like they would think that being a support is just sitting in a bush, warding and healing, but in reality, if you do that, the enemy carry is not gonna he's gonna catch up with me at all times. So the point of a lane is to beat the lane, in my opinion, because if you let them farm, then they're just gonna be on par with you. So there's no point in just sitting back and farming when you could be going for harass. You could be calling for jungler ganks, and you could be winning the lane.
Okay. So how do you respond, like, if your support gives first blood?
If my support gives first blood, then I just play safe until we get kills on them. Like, junglers, this is where jungler comes into part, because if you don't have a good support, your jungler's gonna have to camp bottom lane, because that's the only way you can win the lane. And I think bottom lane is by far the hardest lane to gank and the hardest lane probably kill, because they will have two people and they would just be trying to help each other. So one would flash away and then lay some cover fire, or one would flash away and lay down a stun. So it's harder to get kills on them. But if you get a gank from your jungler and don't get a kill, you establish lane dominance, and they're gonna be playing more passively. So that's all that really matters.
Okay. So how hard is it to get in the dominant position bottom lane?
Killing spree.
Depends mostly on the picks and where your jungler is on the map. If your top lane, if the enemy top lane is warded, like in the river, and your jungler shows up there, the enemy bottom lane is going to be playing a lot more aggressively because the jungler is so far away from the map. So it's like positioning is key, and where map control, wards are they break the game, because if there's no warding, then you don't know where the jungler is, then you're not going to be able to play aggressively. So it's all about wards, junglers, and
An enemy has been slain.
So in your opinion, it's really important for you to watch the map and see where people show up.
An ally has been slain.
Not especially for AD carries, because if you're watching the map a lot, you're gonna be missing on CS. Unless you're really good at multitasking, this is what separates really good players from the bad. Because if one of my weaknesses, I would say, is not watching the map as often as I can, but my support does that for me, and he always calls out if the jungler's ganking, and then I just back right there. So
okay.
it's really good having voice chat with your team.
Okay. So how do you respond if somebody starts beating you in the lane really bad?
You call for a gank from the jungler, and if your mid lane is somebody who can roam really well, like a Fizz or an Ahri, then I would call gank for them too. But if it's something if it's really hard to gank, I would say go farm the jungle or go kill another lane and then buy an oracle to come right back. Because if we're losing the lane, my support shouldn't be buying vision wards, because if my support has to go to the river, put down a vision ward, he or she is severely putting himself or herself at risk.
Okay. And what happens if you don't get your ganks from the jungler?
Shut down.
Then you probably lose lane, your tower goes down, and you're stuck farming until you push down their tower.
Okay.
But early game matters really big, but if mid game starts and the enemy team just starts making mistakes, it's really easy to just catch that and snowball from there.
Ally has been slain.
So what's the biggest challenge of playing in your lane?
Watching out for their jungler and staying on par with their enemy carry, because picks don't really matter when it happens to be CSing, but a couple AD carries just become so much more scarier when they get their ultimates. Like Ashe, when she gets her ultimate, it's like you don't really want to mess with her until she starts wasting her mana on volley.
And what makes you rage in solo queue?
I often rage a lot in champion select because that's where people throw the game the most, in my opinion. Like, you can get first blood and you can come back from that, but if you just make bad picks and bad bans, that's just like that's already a good game. That's what makes me dodge.
An ally has been slain.
Because if they ban, if like your team bans Shaco and Morgana, and they get Morgana because that was the last ban, that's like already I'm gonna dodge no matter what, because it's just you don't want to deal with that kind of situation. There's like the mindset that, oh, they are Morgana, but we can come back from that. It's like, unless their Morgana is terrible, you shouldn't take that chance.
Okay. What's the best experience you've ever had as an AD carry?
My team actually listened to me when I tell them to do things. Like, one time I had a Mumu jungler, and instead of ganking, he would just farm the jungler, and he would have higher CS than like their jungler, and would be falling behind on like the solo lanes because the jungler can't farm that fast. And I would tell him that Amumu is a strong ganker, so you should be ganking as much as you can. And he's like, "Shut up, noob! I'm trying to farm my items." So then I'm like, "If you gank, you'll be able to get kills or assists and get items from that." And he's like, "Noob, I don't get levels then." And I'm just like, that's not the right mindset you should have as a jungler. Your role as a jungler is supposed to be grab my gold per 10s as fast as I can, and help other lanes snowball. You cannot gank like every lane and snowball every lane because that's just too hard to do as a jungler. But if you like focus on one or two lane and get that lane to snowball, they're gonna be the carries late game. That's how jungling works, in my opinion, from the time that I've done it.
So which lane do you think is most important to snowball?
Bottom lane or mid lane? In my opinion, I think top is kind of like a placeholder because unless that lane gets extremely fed and farmed, they're not really going to be the ones carrying late game. But the hyper carry like Cassiopeia or Morgana, late game, they can probably carry. But AD carries late game have the strongest and most sustained damage output. But if they don't get protected, then it's kind of fun.
Who do you think is the strongest AD carry right now?
An ally has been slain.
Strongest AD carry is probably Graves.
An enemy
I don't like
has been
playing
slain.
Graves because he's like, it just doesn't fit my playstyle, but he has a really strong passive because at max level you're gonna be having 30 MR and 30 armor if you have 10 stacks. He has a Q which gives him like, I guess it's like a good 80 scaling burst, but you shouldn't be really using that much in like late game, but it's really good for early game because like you can get first blood really easy because if you hit all 3 bullets it does like 300 damage. His W, it's a really strong skill because that's a kind of like a blind in a pinch, but it doesn't really work if you're like too close to the smoke screen. Even if you're outside of the ring, you'll still get vision. So it's good for kiting, I would say, but that kind of CC should not be on an AD carry because that's too much. And his E is a really good scaling steroid. The fact that if you have 2 Phantom Dancers and you use your E and you just keep shooting non-stop, then it's going to be back off cooldown by the time that the buff runs out. So it's like one of the strongest steroids, and his ultimate is really good at scaling, and it helps win team fights a lot.
Okay. Which support do you think, or sorry, which carry, AD carry do you think needs a little love right now?
Misfortune, because Misfortune is like, she has too much AP scaling. Like if her W's, if her impure shots scale off AD, I think she's gonna get her place. And her passive could use a little work because it helps get the lane and like you traversing the map, but Misfortune requires a little bit of work in my opinion. Tristano, I used to think Tristano needed to work, but I realized that she's actually really strong. But I would say maybe Twitch doesn't really count as an AD carry, but if he would, then he would really require help. I think the rework actually nerfs him. Caitlyn doesn't have any sort of steroid, like gives her like, she doesn't scale well in late game, so
Okay.
I think those are the AD carries that need the most help.
So,
Enemy
how can you
killing
tell
spree.
if somebody is a bad AD carry in the lane?
If they auto attack to push the lane early game or like during the lane phase, they're probably not that good. And if the minions are starting to come near their side of the lane and they keep auto attacking to like push the lane back to the middle, that goes both ways, because if you just last hit, then you're gonna make the minions push to your tower and then like you're gonna miss out on CS. But if you do that, if you just auto attack to push the lane back, your jungler won't be able to gank. So another thing is, if your support makes a play or your jungler makes a play and your AD carry and the AD carry is just farming, that's like a really bad thing to do. So I think just listening to your team and CSing is the best thing an AD carry can do.
Okay. How can you tell when someone's a good AD carry player?
If they can
Shut
listen
down.
to their support and their jungler, like if Taric stuns and the Graves doesn't do anything, that's like a bad play. But if the Taric stuns and the Graves dashes in there, Qs and ultis, and then he gets a kill, that's a good play. But it's bottom lane is like tricky because you can't. If you make a play, then it's kind of difficult to like stick with it. But if the enemy makes a mistake and you go with that, that's a lot easier to work with. Like if an Ezreal wastes his arcane shift to get closer to you, then you can easily engage on him and probably wipe him out because he won't have his escape anymore.
Okay. So what's one piece of advice you would give to someone who's trying to learn AD carry?
If you're just starting out to play AD carry, playing passively at first would probably be the best for you, because if you just know what items to buy and how to position yourself in the team fight, early game doesn't really matter, but you're just gonna have to take out their AD carry as soon as possible because they're gonna snowball as well. But once you get better and you realize and you like learn all the mechanics, then you should be trying to like go for some early game kills and just make sure that the enemy AD carry does not snowball. But other than that, don't really try to like, if your support stuns the other support, don't auto attack their support, because support can just go back and he or she is not going to really be losing anything because they would have like gold in their hand. So, but if your Taric stuns their support or anything actually, and their AD carry starts attacking your support, you should be attacking them, the AD carry, and you'll be able to just make sure that they can't attack your support without getting damaged, so they'll back off. So then they lose a little bit of HP, and you're still at full HP because the enemy AD carry wasn't attacking you. But if the enemy AD carry attacks you, then you should either just try to out damage them or just back off, because that's when the picks come into matter.
Okay.
I think that Graves would probably be the best duelist out of this, because he just does so much damage early game, and he's really good at positioning himself and making sure that the enemy AD carry can't really do that much damage to him. Because his passive and his Q, all of his entire kit is really strong, like really strong. Because some AD carries have like a useless spell, but no, Graves makes sure that every one of his skills, even his passive, is just so strong.
Okay. So let's talk about Riot for a second. What's your opinion on where Riot is taking the game?
They're making probably like
enemy
30
has been
champions
slain.
not viable in like any sort of gameplay, because they're making, like, they didn't make the meta, but the way that they're making it so that the meta can be easily adjusted, but nobody's really taking like advantage of that. I think that Riot put the game in a good place, but there are some things that are just out of line. Like how, like Darius's ulti, like that's just stupid, in my opinion, like how strong it is. And some top lanes that can just ignore the entire team and just go straight for the AD carry is just kind of like, not really overpowered, but it's just that it's just so easy to just making somebody easily snowball is like overpowered, because Darius, he always wins his lane unless it's just bad or the jungler is just ganking a lot. But the fact that Riot is making it so if you snowball early game, you just win the game, because early game is what matters the most. because if you win a team fight late game, that's gonna win the game, sure, but the reason you're gonna win the team fight is because you won early game, or they're just throwing. But making sure that you win early game is pretty important, because if you just lose early game, like you lose your tower really early, you'll be able to farm. But they get global gold and they get to start to roam and take down other towers, they're just gonna win the game.
Okay. So, what do you want Riot to do in League then? What would you think would be a good choice for them to make?
I'm no game designer, so I don't have any say in that, but making sure that all points of the game matter is important,
An ally has been
because
slain.
early game just
Killing spree.
it doesn't really determine the game, but it just makes it really one-sided, because if you get an early
Shut down.
like 2,000 gold lead, then
An
you can
enemy
just
has
snowball
been
that out of
slain.
control.
Okay. So, let's talk about the recent patch. What do you think of the Eve and Twitch
Your
changes?
team has destroyed a turret.
I like where Evelyn is right now, because they made her not so strong, but her role is, if an Evelyn pops out of nowhere and starts attacking you, unless you're extremely fed, you're not going to just start attacking, you're going to back off. So that just puts it in like their advantage automatically by the numbers. But Twitch, they just, in my opinion, he was better before, because a 50-second stealth is a 70% attack speed bonus for 10 seconds. It's a lot better than 8-second stealth for 70% attack speed bonus for 3 seconds, or like however long it is. And his ulti is kind of a nerf in my opinion, because even though it's faster, it's like it doesn't matter that much, because in teamfight no one's gonna be trying to dodge your ulti really like to their fullest potential. They're just gonna eat it and then they're gonna get expunged. But they Twitch is like in a really bad spot. They also nerfed this passive, but if they if they remove Evelyn and Twitch, I wouldn't be surprised, because that kind of stealth mechanic is just doesn't really fit into the metagame. So unless they make some really huge changes, I don't think Evelyn or Twitch is going to be seeing much attention at all.
Okay. And how about the big Xin Zhao change? What do you think of that?
I think Xin Zhao is really good now. He's not like a pub stomper anymore, and he's not really like weak anymore, but
Your
if I
team has
start
destroyed a
seeing him
turret.
in competitive play, I wouldn't be surprised, because Xin Zhao is a really good duelist now, and he can make some really big plays with the ulti. His 3 talent strikes also like on a really short cooldown, so that puts a lot of CC back into it.
An ally has been slain.
Let's talk about the competitive fields. Who's your favorite team?
Shut down.
I love TSM, not really because of their gameplay, but because they're funny. They're really relaxed. So I think that's really cool how the team can do that. And they're really nice too, because I see people like talking to them and they're all like, "Hey, what's up?" They're not like mean to their fans or anything. But I'm not gonna name any other teams, but some teams are just really big douchebags, like in a whole.
Okay. Who do you think is giving the most innovation to League of Legends right now? Which team is doing the most new things?
I think Moscow 5, they make really big plays and they always change up their stuff. Every tournament they bring something new to the field. The Korean teams have like, they just troll and they just do good with the trolls. And they just play differently from North Americans and like other parts of the world. But
An enemy has been
I really like
slain.
how people are bringing new things into it. Like when they made this play with Soraka top lane and Lulu mid, and they were just pumping out buffs to Kog'Maw, and he was
An
just
ally
hyper
has
carrying the
been
game.
slain.
That was like something really cool I've never seen before, and they made it work too. So it's like really cool to see that kind of thing.
What team do you think has gotten a little stale lately?
Shut down. An ally has been slain.
I don't want to name anything, but no teams really have gotten stale, but it's just that everyone's getting better, so they have to keep up. But I don't know. Team Solo Mid is actually they haven't been practicing a lot lately, and it's like really shows because they're not really playing as well as they used to, but they're still really good.
So, in terms of what it takes to win a tournament, do you think innovation with like new champions is more important, or innovation as in new ways to play old champions?
They both kind of do the same thing, like, as to like throw off the enemies, and it like playing mind games with the enemy can help you get an advantage. But if it's not viable, then it shouldn't be done. But how people brought Urgot back to the playing field was like innovative for like the first couple weeks, and now Urgot got nerfed, so I don't think they should really play him anymore. Because he's not that good, but he was in a decent spot before. But the way that he could build so tanky and then like get so much damage out of it, it was kind of ridiculous. But his late game fell off really hard, so they shouldn't really have changed him. But some champions, even if like the best player plays them, they're just gonna get outclassed by other champions. So when people bring new strategies to the field, like a whole team comp, that would be a lot better than just bringing one champion back.
And what do you think is a hidden OP champion that no one's discovered yet in the gaming community?
Nobody has really not been discovered because everyone plays it, but like the Secret Society of Trundle players, you know, Trundle is really strong, but he falls off. But every champion that's not overplayed is underplayed for a reason. But if I would have to name anybody, I think Trundle's one of the stronger jungles out there, but nobody just used to play that much.
Okay. Let's see. Tell me a little bit about your life outside League of Legends. What do you like to do?
What do I like to do? I just like to like have fun with friends, you know. Do things illegal, but illegal things are fun. But you know, other than hanging out with friends, I would have no life because oftentimes I just decline hanging out with friends so I can play League of Legends because I revolve my entire life around League of Legends. Call me a no life, but that's a compliment to me because I just love League of Legends. It's the best game out there. Even though I play Dota 2 and HARM over that, League of Legends is really fun. The best game, the best.
So you're not that into Dota anymore?
I never said that, but Dota, I haven't been playing Dota much lately, so I would say yeah, but Dota is so much more competitive than League of Legends, and you can make such, like, it has such a higher skill cap in my opinion, because you can do some really crazy things in Dota. Just the other day, I saw a really good play where, in League of Legends, you can see something called blocking, like, if somebody's in front of you, your character will kind of like twitch out a little bit, and like, it wouldn't really slow you down because it's not that noticeable, but it would slow you down a little bit. But in Dota, like, it's really noticeable because if somebody's in front of you, they can literally block you and make you stop and have to like walk a different direction. But I saw a play where it's kind of like a fiddlesticks drain, and it was happening, and the teammate was just blocking that person. It was a support, so wasn't trying to go for the kill, but I was just trying to make it do as much damage as possible. And it was done by Navi, which is one of my favorite Dota teams, and it was just a really good play. It's like the amount of skill cap in Dota is a lot higher, and I would say that I'm pretty bad at Dota, but it's one of my favorite games that I've played for so long. I'm still not good at it.
So, is there anything you would like to add to the interview before we're done? Anything you'd like to say?
If you want to be better at AD carry, just have a good support friend. You can be pretty trash with AD carry, and you can still carry late game because it's one of the easier roles to play in my opinion. But I just find it to be one of like the most stress relieving and probably the least pressured, because I think jungling is like so stressful because all the lanes need your help, and like people pin the game on you if they lose. But I don't think the game should ever be the jungler's fault. I think that you can win your own lane 100% of the time. Well, not win your own lane, but you can make sure that you don't feed the enemy team. And if you're just starting out to play AD carry, then one helpful tip is make sure that early game, if you get a kill and you're both recalling, you and your support, make sure you buy the ward so they can get their gold % items really fast, because that helps them snowball. And 75 gold doesn't hurt you that much because you can just farm that back. But for the support, that's like they have to wait for that gold, so it's just really helpful. It's just a really nice thing to do, common courtesy. And make sure you don't feed the enemy team.
Well, thank you very much for being with me today. It's been a pleasure interviewing you, and I hope to see more of you at solomid.net.
Thank you, you too.
Yep, and thank you to my viewers for watching.